By August of 1884, the British have to send the quote Gordon Relief Expedition. Gordon did not like it being called the Gordon Relief Expedition. You see this with World War II, I believe it's Bastogne, where it's sort of, was it a paratrooper was asked, well, how do you feel about being rescued by Patton? And he said, well, we didn't need rescuing. Soldiers generally don't like being rescued, so it's called the Gordon Relief Expedition. The media called it that, shocking the media getting involved again, but Gordon didn't like that. And this expedition used Canadians, of all people, to sort of, mostly Canadians and a lot of Native Americans from Canada, to man boats up the Nile River. And so their plan was to just sail up the Nile as far as possible and engage the Mahdists and relieve Khartoum. And this didn't work, but they got quite far, but on this sort of around the 14th, 15th, 16th of January, Gordon got a letter out like, you have to hurry, they're coming. They're coming. The tides around Khartoum had sort of gone down. These sort of beaches were exposed. They could easily assault the city at any time. So Gordon's like, yeah, now, come on, hurry, hurry. And so the Nile expedition continues on its path, but Stuart, who we saw before, the cavalry, Stuart is dispatched with the Desert Column. And the Desert Column is the one who's going to be fighting the big battle that we're going to talk about. We're only going to talk about one more big battle, but the Desert Column makes a beeline for the Khartoum. It cuts through the Great Bend in the Nile. I'll put a photograph of that up. But the Desert Column's job is to just cut across the desert towards Khartoum and relieve it or reinforce it. So Stuart sets out with these cavalry, a lot of them on camels. The Camel Corps is famously involved in this one. And on the 16th of January, the Camel Corps comes into contact with the enemy in the late afternoon. And Stuart, because he is a smart man, decides that we will not engage these Mahdists at night. We have rifles, carbines and rifles. Our job is to fight during the day. Why would we want to fight them at night? That's just all their advantage. So they built these things called Zariba. Zariba is thickets of thorns, thorn bushes, rocks, just barricades out of just natural stuff. More like, but not barricades in the sense of something to hide behind, barricades in the sort of like a barbed wire type barricade, but out of natural material. So they sort of set these up around the camp, and when in the morning it becomes quite clear they're going to be attacked by Mahdists, form into a square. And in the square, if you've ever seen the movie Khartoum, it's an awful, don't watch it, it's crap. In the movie Khartoum, Charlton Heston plays Gordon. But they show the Battle of Abu Klea. Literally everything about it is wrong. They had the British using Remingtons. They had the camels kneeling down. The British sort of taking cover behind them. No. The British formed a square and put the camels in the middle. That was actually quite important at Abu Klea, because the Mahdists got in the square. And the Mahdists had got in the square at first El Teb as well. That was the main reason that I'm actually going to talk about El Teb more and then put it back in, because so the camels are inside the square, and along with the British is members of the Royal Navy. Lord Beresford, Royal Navy Captain Lord Beresford, is there with a Gardner gun. A Gardner gun, I'll put a photograph up. Gatling gun gets all the praise. Gardner gun is sort of like a pipe organ laid down with the independent things. It had been tested and it was found to be perfectly usable in Britain, but it was not very usable in Africa. Loose sand and grit and crap like that. Luckily, Hiram Maxim had come along and solved the pesky issue of machine guns not working in Africa. Yeah, a few years later with his Maxim gun. But this Gardner gun was what the British had, and it's what they used. So the British have formed a square. The Battle of Abu Klea lasts 15 minutes. So yeah, all this is taking place within a 15-minute period. The Mahdists attack, and Lord Beresford says, right, move the Gardner gun just outside the square, open a gap, move the Gardner gun out, and we'll flank him, basically enfilading fire down the side of the Mahdists. And as he does that, our man Burnaby, this battle is probably the one he's most famous for. Yeah, he's probably not proud of that, but anyway. Our man Burnaby says, well, okay. And he moves some of his some camel troops out to support this machine gun. And the machine gun fires 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 rounds and then jams. Fires 70 rounds, jammed. And so they, okay, let's get it back inside the square, but they get rushed by Mahdists. and 2 officers, 2 lieutenants, and 6 men are killed. A VC is won here. A VC is won by Mr. Alfred Smith, a member of the Royal Navy. His officer was attacked, and his officer was attacked while doing something with the gun, so he didn't have any weapons. And so Mr. Smith grabbed the trail spike, which is what I'll put a photograph of something with the trail spike. Trail spikes are these universal sort of cannon things that you use to slightly maneuver the cannon. So he's got this big iron bar, and he defends his officer with this iron bar. And for that, he won the VC. And I should point out that Lord Beresford, the Royal Navy commander who was in charge of these Royal Navy troops attached to this, he's a captain, sorry, not a commander. Lord Beresford was actually almost killed. His hand was scratched with the spear he had ducked down behind the gun, because the Royal Navy is not like the British Army would never stand up, as we'll see later with Stuart. The British Army, most of these officers were on horseback. Most of the British officers were on horseback, but the Royal Navy ducked behind the carriage, and a spear grazed his knuckles. So these men were in severe danger. And so Burnaby sort of led a little saute. The Mahdist got inside the square. In the newspapers, again, of course, got it wrong, and the newspapers reported that Burnaby had defeated the Mahdist. He went after them because they'd broken the British square and he rallied it. And no, a slight gap was made. The Mahdist got a few men in, and there were so many camels and tents and all this sort of stuff, they couldn't do anything with it. So the rear ranks of the British just turned around and killed them all. And during this action, Burnaby was hit in the throat with a spear, and he was killed. And that's why he's quite famous for this battle, and why a lot of his actions in the campaign are sort of glossed up more than they should have been, because he was killed in action. A lot of sources will also tell you that Stuart was killed at Abu Klea. Stuart was not killed at Abu Klea, not on the 17th of January. Stuart was mortally wounded on the 19th of January at Abu Kru. At Abu Kru, Abu Kru. That's where he was mortally wounded. Oh, sorry. The man, I said before about British officers on horseback. I mean, the reason we know this is because, well, they were there. But anyway, one example we have of this is Rhodes, Cecil Rhodes' brother. Cecil Rhodes' brother had multiple horses shot out from underneath him in a 15-minute time period. Like, this is some serious carnage, some serious, turnover at bounce. So he had a horse shot, got back up, got on the horse, another horse shot, got on another horse. This is British officers do this over and over and over and over again. At Waterloo, at La Haye-Saint, the commander at La Haye-Saint is constantly, he has his reins shot out at one point, like his reins are severed by a bullet. Horse is killed, gets another horse. Horse is killed, gets another horse. British officers, they're not cowards. So this is the 19th. Stuart's mortally wounded, and on the 26th of January, on Australia Day, 2 days before his 52nd birthday, Gordon is killed when Khartoum falls. He is killed against the Mahdi's direct orders. The Mahdi did not want Gordon to be killed. He wanted him to be captured. He could work with Gordon. He could work with Gordon, and killing Gordon just kind of pissed the British off. Although the British did retreat after this. The British left the Sudan until 1896. So Gordon is dead. Graham's expedition is recalled, and the British essentially leave the Sudan until 1896. They're still fighting and stuff. Nothing major happens until 1896. Australia. This is actually Australia's first ever overseas military engagement. Men from New South Wales go over and form some sort of camel expedition. They go over as normal soldiers. They don't actually see any combat. The only people who see combat are a camel scouting group. So yeah, anyone ever wonders what Australia's first overseas military action was, it was against the radical Islamist followers of the Mahdi of the Sudan. There was Sufi, for those who, if anyone knows about Islamic group, these were Sufi. These weren't Shiites or Sunnis. These were Sufi Muslims. And General Buller was also involved in the Sudan in this group. I'm going to leave you with a quote from General Buller, famous for getting beaten in the Boer War unfairly. He shouldn't have that reputation. He's sort of like gentlemen in the Second World War who were. Is it Wavell? Is it Wavell? Buller has this undeserved reputation of being beaten and as being a bad commander. He wasn't. He was quite good. De la Rey was simply just better. And De la Rey was a fantastic commander. Anyway, Buller wrote a memorandum to British officers before he went into the Sudan and before they had any major action. So I'll read that to you now, and I'll use this to round out the video. Thank you very much for watching. Quote, "If we have to fight in the Sudan, we must expect to meet an enemy far outnumbering us, and who may at first charge recklessly home, apparently regardless of the intense fire we bring upon him." Quote. And this is true. The British repeatedly reported these penny packet charges of 2 or 3 guys. 2 or 3 guys would charge at the British line, and like 2 or 3 guys would charge a battalion of men, 800, 600 men. They would charge them. That's I mean, if we go back to Second El Tab, we have 3 men on camels charging the British scouts. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day.